I built it, not on paper, not in theory, not as a dream sketched at midnight on the back of a calculation sheet. I built it with steel, with copper, with concrete foundations sunk 60 feet into the earth because the earth itself was the conductor I needed. The tower stood 18.7 feet above Shoreham, Long Island. Beneath it, a shaft drove another 120 feet down into the ground. A mushroom-shaped dome of copper sat at its crown, charged and waiting to do the one thing that every power company on this earth was built to prevent: transmit electricity to every human being on this planet. For free. Stop. Understand what I just said. Not cheaper electricity, not discounted electricity, not electricity sold to the poor at a rate they could almost afford. Free. Completely, universally, to every home, every village, every hospital, every lamp in every dark corner of every country that had never seen a wire. I proved the principle in Colorado Springs in 1899. I lit 200 lamps wirelessly from 25 miles away. The science worked. The numbers confirmed it. The earth conducted exactly as I calculated it would. And then I built the tower. And tonight I am going to tell you exactly what happened next. Every fact, every name, every date, the truth they spent 25 years making certain you would never find out. Here's what I actually discovered. The earth is not dead ground beneath your feet. It is a conductor, a living, resonating, electrically active sphere carrying charge across its entire surface at all times. Most men looked at the ground and saw dirt. I looked at the ground and saw wire. The principle is this. If you drive an electrical charge into the earth at one frequency, the earth carries that charge everywhere, simultaneously, without loss over distance. Because the earth does not dissipate electricity the way copper wire does. It resonates with it. Think carefully about what that means. A wire loses power over every mile it travels. That is why your electricity is expensive. That is why power companies exist, to build infrastructure, to string wire across continents, to meter every unit of current that passes through those wires and charge you for every single one. Remove the wire. Use the earth instead. The loss disappears. The distance disappears. The meter disappears. In Colorado Springs, 1899, I drove electrical charge into the earth through a transmitter operating at a precise resonant frequency, 25 miles away with no wire connecting anything. 200 light bulbs illuminated, simultaneously, without a single connection to any power grid on earth. The numbers: 200 bulbs, 25 miles, 0 wire, complete transmission. I measured the Earth's natural electrical resonance during those experiments. I recorded what I found. I calculated what a global system would require. The Earth resonates at a frequency that allows transmission across its entire surface, not just 25 miles, entire surface. Every point simultaneously reachable from a single transmission tower operating at the correct frequency. Wardenclyffe was that tower. 18.7 feet of steel and copper rising from Long Island. A resonance transmitter designed to drive electrical charge into the earth at global scale. Receiving station simple, cheap, requiring no complex infrastructure placed anywhere on earth, could pull that charge directly from the ground beneath their feet. No wire, no meter, no bill. Did they teach you any of this in school? Or did they teach you the version that kept the right people comfortable? The science was real, the proof existed. I had already demonstrated it, and J.P. Morgan had already begun to understand exactly what it meant. J.P. Morgan funded Wardenclyffe Tower in 1901, $150,000. Substantial, serious. The kind of investment that meant he expected a return. I was direct with him. I told him the system would transmit not only electricity but communication signals, news, private messages, navigational data across the entire world, wirelessly, simultaneously. I presented the vision completely. What I did not emphasize, what became clear to him only as the science developed, was the one detail that changed everything. The system could not be metered. You cannot put a meter on the earth. You cannot charge someone for pulling electricity from the ground beneath their own feet. The moment Wardenclyffe worked, the moment anyone on earth could receive free power from a receiving station, the entire business model of every power company ever built collapsed. J.P. Morgan made one phone call. October 1933. Funding stopped, not reduced, stopped. Construction halted. Workers sent home. The tower half built. already proven in principle, already demonstrating what it could do, stood silent on Long Island. I am not telling you this for your sympathy. I am telling you this so you understand exactly what they were afraid of. In 1917, while I was still alive, still working, still fighting to resume construction, the United States government demolished Wardenclyffe Tower, sold the property to cover my debts. The tower I built, the tower that could have powered this world, was torn down for scrap metal. And on January 7, 1943, the morning after I died alone in room 327 of the New Yorker hotel, government agents were already inside my room, removing papers, seizing documents, every calculation, every schematic, every note from 60 years of scientific discovery, gone before the body was cold. The timing was not accidental. Nothing about any of this was accidental. 120 years. That is how long this was buried. Calculate what that means, not emotionally, mathematically. 120 years of electricity bills paid by every family on this planet. 120 years of villages with no power because they could not afford the infrastructure. 120 years of hospitals running on generators in countries that could not string wire across their own terrain. 120 years of children doing homework by candlelight, not because the electricity did not exist, but because the system that could have delivered it for free was demolished for scrap metal in 1917. That is the cost, measured not in dollars, in human lives diminished by darkness. Every solar panel today operates on the edge of what I discovered. Every wireless transmission, your telephone, your radio, every signal passing invisibly through the air around you right now operates on principles I documented before 1900, but only the edge, the surface. They let the world have the edge of the discovery, because the edge could still be metered, still be sold, still be controlled. They never let you reach the center. But here is what they miscalculated. You cannot bury a law of physics. The science I proved in Colorado Springs in 1899 still works, exactly as it worked then. The Earth still conducts. The resonance frequencies I calculated are still accurate. The principle behind Wardenclyffe has not changed because J.P. Morgan stopped to check, because laws of physics do not respond to financial pressure. The tower is gone. The papers were seized. The funding was pulled. But the law itself, the exact scientific principle that made all of this possible, is sitting in the earth beneath your feet right now, unchanged, undestroyed, waiting. Waiting. The law itself is simple. Every conductor has a resonant frequency, the frequency at which it transmits energy with minimum resistance and maximum efficiency. Find that frequency. Match your transmission to it, and the conductor carries your signal across its entire length with almost no loss. This is not theory. This is the foundation of every radio, every antenna, every wireless signal on this earth. I did not invent this law. I discovered it, and then I discovered that the largest conductor on this planet was the planet itself. The earth resonates at specific measurable frequencies. The cavity between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere carries electromagnetic waves around the full circumference of the globe. I calculated this. I measured it in Colorado Springs. The resonance I found, confirmed decades later by other scientists who had access to my notes, operates at approximately 783 cycles per second as its fundamental frequency. What this means for transmission is this: a signal introduced into the earth at its resonant frequency does not weaken with distance. It propagates, it distributes. It arrives everywhere simultaneously because the resonance carries it, not the wire. This is why they were afraid, not of me, of the law itself. Because a metered power system requires a wire, a physical connection that carries current from a source to a customer, measurable at every point, billable at every unit. Remove the wire, replace it with resonance, replace it with the earth as conductor, and the entire architecture of metered power becomes unnecessary. You cannot meter resonance. You cannot bill a frequency. You cannot charge a family for electricity that rises from the ground beneath their house like water from a well. J.P. Morgan understood this before I had finished explaining it. That single understanding that this law could not be monetized is the reason Wardenclyffe Tower no longer exists. A law of physics demolished a 18-7-foot tower. Think carefully about what that means. This is what I want you to carry away from everything I have told you tonight. The earth conducts electricity. That is verified, science documented, measured, confirmed repeatedly by researchers who came after me. The resonant frequencies of the Earth ionosphere cavity are real, calculable, and unchanged. Wireless transmission of electrical power, not just signals, not just data, but usable electrical power is physically possible. I demonstrated this in 1899. The principle has never been disproven. It has only been defunded, demolished, and deliberately removed from the education system that was supposed to teach you how your world works. You were never taught this because the people who built the world's power infrastructure needed you to believe that wires were the only way. They were not. They are not now. Every child on this earth has a right to electricity. Every hospital, every home, in every country where a power line has never reached. The science that could have made that possible was sitting complete and proven in Long Island in 1903, and one man made one financial decision that kept it from you for 120 years. That is not conspiracy. That is documented history. Tell me, did they teach you any of this in school? They tore the tower down in 1917. I watched it happen. I was still alive, still working, still certain as I had ever been about anything that the science was correct, that the principle was proven, that what I had built on Long Island could have changed the condition of every human being alive on this earth. They sent men with explosives, sold the copper for scrap, cleared the land, and then they seized my papers the morning I died, as though the danger was not finished, as though the science itself was still something to be feared, still something that required containing. They were right to fear it, because this is what they did not understand, what no amount of funding withdrawal, no demolition order, no government seizure has ever been able to change. The law I found in 1899 is still operating, right now, beneath your feet, in the resonating cavity of the atmosphere above your head, in every wireless signal passing invisibly through the walls of the room where you are sitting. They buried the inventor, they demolished the tower, they seized the papers. But the earth still conducts at the frequency I measured, and a law of physics does not stop working, because the man who found it died alone in a hotel room with nothing left but the truth.